Investigations Division. I am their crime analyst here. I'm the only one here in Oshkosh. Very fun job. I usually tell people that I stalk people for a living. But I help detectives and our patrol officers with various different parts of investigations. A lot of it has to do with technology. A lot of it has to do with cell phones or computers. But my bread and butter is truly social media. I have a background that's pretty diverse in the criminal justice field. I have worked in corrections, in 911 dispatch. I've worked as a deputy. I've even worked as a private investigator. I spent 10 years in the military as a military police officer as well. So I have worked from the civilian capacity all the way up to military. So quick note, thank you to all those veterans who are out there today, or if you guys know anybody, thank you so much for your service. Other than that, I do have 2 kids, a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old. My husband is also a police officer, so you guys can probably imagine what dinner is like at our house, right? Can't really turn it off sometimes. But my 10-year-old is very into technology. She's very into social media, so it definitely helps when I'm trying to put together these presentations for you all. So oftentimes I get asked the question, who does this class apply to? Who should be concerned about social media, about the internet, about their kids? Everyone. Everyone is my answer. Everyone who has children that have access to the internet, regardless of their age, if they're 1, if they are 17, everybody should pay attention and just make sure that you're writing these things down and taking notes. One of my favorite quotes is from this gentleman named Eric. He says, "We don't have a choice in whether or not we digitally transform. It's how we do it," right? Technology is always growing. It's always changing and evolving, and we have to make sure that we're at least trying to keep up with it. So why are we here? Why cybercrime, right? Cybercrime is one of the fastest growing types of crimes in the world. This is something that we've never had before. Think about 10 years ago what your cell phone was like or your computer was like. And now we can literally, talk to Alexa and tell her to look up movie times or order us food or to text somebody. It's crazy. Everything is changing. Everything is evolving. If you think about when you were a kid, I mean, I can't imagine having a cell phone in high school. I can't imagine having social media like it is now in high school. There's a lot that's different. So we'll go back to the basics a little bit, right? Because if you guys aren't understanding cybercrime and all that it entails, you're not going to be able to protect your children. You have to be able to protect yourself and keep yourself safe on the internet before you can protect your children. Otherwise, it's pretty much useless, right? So some of the most common types of cybercrime that is out there include phishing scams, ransomware attacks, malware, digital currency scams, identity theft, stealing intellectual property, violating privacy, harassment, stalking, human trafficking, prostitution. That's all done online now, selling weapons, selling drugs, and of course, child predators. Individuals who are 60 and over are the largest group of victims in the United States. And each year, there's at least $2.7 billion lost to crime. But let's get down to it, right? We are here to talk about social media and the internet use by our kids. What is social media? Social media, by dictionary definition, is forms of electronic communication, such as websites for social networking and microblogging, through which users can create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content, such as videos. So you have to ask yourself, how does your child access the internet? Are they using their own cell phone? Are they using your cell phone? Do they have an iPad or a tablet? Are they on a Chromebook that's issued to them from school? Are they using a computer you have at your house? Do they have a smartwatch that has access to the internet? Do they have some type of gaming tablet or an Xbox or a PlayStation? All these things access the internet, right? Some fast facts. Today in 2020, there are 3.5 billion social media users worldwide. That's about 45% of the world's population. In 2018, I want you guys to pay attention to this. These were the top sites. The top site number 1 was Facebook, of course, then Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and so on. But things have changed. And it's interesting because I've been presenting this same class for a couple of years now, especially I think I started in 2016. And the way that social media has evolved is super, super interesting. Right now, for kids, the top sites among teenagers is YouTube, Instagram, and then Snapchat. They do not like Facebook. They're not interested in Facebook at all. They consider that their parents' social media website, and they just don't want to be on it. 95% of teens report they have access to a smartphone or that they have their own. 45% of teenagers say they are online on a near constant basis. Facebook is no longer the dominant platform for teenagers. Some other popular sites and apps for kids in ages or in grades K through 12. Roblox, TikTok, Likey. If you don't know what Likey is, that's a website or an application that's exactly like TikTok. When we were kind of arguing with the government about whether or not we were going to allow American citizens to keep TikTok, Likey was going to be the alternate app that kids were going to move to. I know my daughter was kind of panicking and had downloaded that right away, but that's exactly what that is. YouTube, definitely #1 site. Discord is an app that people who are interested in gaming can use, and they can talk back and forth about their game on the app. Xbox, of course, Xbox Live. Google Meet, that's a huge one right now, especially for kids who are at home and they have access to Chromebooks, right? They're sitting there on their Chromebooks, they're starting Google Meets just like we're doing, they're talking to their friends all day. Some sites that you might, or apps that you might not be aware of. One is called Among Us. That's a huge one in kids that are in middle school right now, and even some older kids. It's basically just a game. Visco is a social media site similar to Instagram, so you can share videos and photos and follow each other, that sort of thing. House Party. House Party is a video chat application. I do not think that it's appropriate for younger kids at all. So if you do see that you have a middle school child or someone younger than that with House Party, it's probably not a good idea, and I probably would have them delete that off of their devices just because it's not as secure as some other things like maybe Google Meet or Facebook Messenger for kids. So parents, we're up against a lot, right? Pew Research is one of the research sites that I use for all of my classes that I give to others. And they said that 2/3 of parents say parenting is so much harder today than it was 20 years ago, with technologies like social media and smartphones being cited as the main reason. They're up against a lot. They don't know how to use the technology. They don't know how to use the social media sites. Technology has taught kids to want instant gratification, right? So they have these weird, crazy expectations, and it comes from the technology that they're sitting on all the time. Social media can be harmful to kids and their self-esteem, their self-image, their mental health. Technology and social media presents new risks and exposure to harmful materials or people that kids otherwise wouldn't be exposed to. Parents, of course, always worry about screen time, and technology and social media is seriously addicting. We are addicted to social media, and if any of you guys are on here and thinking that you're not, you're probably wrong. The University of Maryland did a very interesting study a couple of years ago about they asked students not to use their social media for 24 hours. And they just wanted to see how they would react, how they would feel. There were some good things that came out of it. They said, they felt really disconnected from the world. That was their primary source of news. They were instantly aware of campus emergencies, things like that. But some of the bad things that came of this study was that they found that social media is very addicting, obviously, right? So students felt frantically craving, very anxious, extremely antsy, miserable, jittery, crazy. The words Facebook addiction is searched 350 times more than cigarette addiction now. Think about that. Let that sink in. Something you may not have heard of is called FOMO, or the fear of missing out. It's anxiety that an exciting or interesting event may currently be happening elsewhere. This is something that's seen in adults. I mean, I've seen it in myself, but it's mostly seen in teens and younger adults, right? When people are posting on Facebook or on Instagram or on Snapchat, they're not posting their failures. They're posting their highlights. They're posting the best of the best. They're posting the picture where they have the filter just right and they look great and their outfit is brand new. They're not posting them waking up at 6 in the morning and looking crazy. So people are feeling like they're not good enough. They're feeling like their friends are doing things without them. They're feeling like, oh, Jill got this brand new shirt and I didn't. This is something that seriously affects young people's mental health. And it's something to think about, something to talk to your kids about. So just how much social media affects your brain. In a study by the Royal Society for Public Health in the United Kingdom, 1,500 young people ages 14 to 24 were surveyed on how social media platforms impact their mental health and well-being, and found that YouTube was found to have the most positive impact. That's good, right? Because most kids, most teenagers are on YouTube. That's their #1 app. Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter all demonstrated negative effects overall on young people's mental health. That goes back to the fear of missing out, on FOMO, on comparing yourself to others. In a 2016 study on brain mapping, they found when teenagers' photos get a lot of likes on social media apps, their brains respond in a similar way as when they're seeing a loved one or they're winning money. Instagram is actually conducting a test right now in several different countries and in different parts of the United States where they're actually taking away the like feature. So when you look at a picture and you click the heart or you like it, they're trying to take that away to try to see if this would be a positive feature to incorporate into Instagram to try to help people feel better. It's crazy what social media is doing to us, but it's something that isn't going away. We're not just going to wake up one day and not have social media, right? It's always evolving, always changing. And this is the reality that our younger kids are growing up in. So what are the biggest risks for our kids in social media or being online? Now, these are not in order, but some of them are child predators, cyberbullying and harassment, sexual harassment, stalking, a risk of viewing inappropriate content, financial crimes, and of course, sexual crimes. Now, I'm going to touch on a little bit of everything. I apologize. It's not going to be in order, and I kind of bounce around a little bit, but it's because I want to make sure I can get everything covered. Again, if you guys have questions while I'm going through any of this, please feel free to interrupt me. I'm going to give you my top tips right now in keeping your kids safe. If you could screenshot this, write this down. These are my personal top tips on what you should be doing when you are talking about the internet, when you're talking about social media with your family. Number one, set clear expectations and ground rules and keep the line of communication open. I cannot stress how important this is. My daughter has a cell phone that is not connected to the internet. She can connect to Wi-Fi, and I have very, very, very clear rules on what she can and cannot do with that phone. Number two, know how to use your children's phones and apps. You have to, in order to understand what your kids are doing, you have to look at their phone, physically look at their phone, look through what they have downloaded, and look at the apps. Download them yourself, learn how to use them. Is your kid on TikTok? Are they on Likey? Are they downloading things that like you just have no idea what the heck they are? Download them yourself, because that's how you're going to know how to adjust the privacy settings, how you're going to make sure they're not chatting with people they don't know, how you're going to learn how to turn the location information off of their cell phones, off of these apps, right? You have to do the physical work. You have to take their phone, you have to take their tablet, and you have to make sure you know what they're doing. Number three, talk to your kids about location data. I cannot stress how important this is. There are so many applications on your phone right now that are constantly running and pinging off cell phone towers and communicating back and forth and telling your phone exactly where you are. It's not hard for me to pull up Snapchat in my professional position and look and see where all of these juveniles in the city of Oshkosh are. This is how I find juvenile runaways. This is how we find people that are wanted at the police department. It's very, very simple to do, and it's because people just don't care. They don't think about turning their location data off. Snapchat is probably the #1 app that I would suggest making sure your kids do not have the location data turned on, unless you want to see where they are. You can play with the functions, and they can only display their location with their parents or with certain people. That's okay. Then make sure it's not on with the public. Same with posting things. Kids love to tag where they're at. They love to be, at Starbucks and post a picture and say, hey, I'm here. This is awesome. But what they don't think about is who else is looking at that, right? You have to talk to your kids about this. This is right in line with, keeping those lines of communication open. Talk about your kids about not posting where they are. Talk to them about making sure to turn their location data off on their apps and on their phone that they're sharing with others. And lastly, no technology in their rooms at night. I can't stress enough how important this is. No phones or technology in their rooms at night. Kids are waking up from their sleep to check their notifications. Kids are doing things that they shouldn't be online at night, right? They're bored, they can't sleep. This is when they wander into those areas of messaging people that they shouldn't and looking at things that are inappropriate. It's just not a good idea. Keep the phones in the living room, in the kitchen, keep them into your room, whatever you have to do. But that's definitely a rule that I would set at your house. So real quick, I'll go through some apps. This is an image that I've seen several times. This police department did a great job on putting it together, but it is a little bit outdated. I'll just go through some of the apps that are out there and ones that you should probably watch out for. So on the top row, I don't see a lot of Meet Me or Scout in the general Fox Valley area. Grindr, though, that's an app that probably should not be on any of your children's phone. Grindr is like Tinder for people that identify as gay or bisexual or transgender. That's something that no one under the age of 18 and living at home going to high school should have. So if you see this on your child's phone, make sure that they delete this. Going to the second row, WhatsApp with the green app on the left. Some kids will have that. This is a chat application that's end-to-end encrypted. So I guess that's kind of a more secure app than maybe general text messaging. I don't see a lot of this on kids' phones. It's not that big of a deal. TikTok, right? A lot of parents are concerned about this. I would say with social media, this is part of your kids' social life. This is how they're learning to connect with other people. TikTok does have things on its app that are inappropriate. So if you feel that your child is too young and you're worried about what they're able to search, there's really no way to narrow down their search features or make it child-proof. So if you're worried at all, maybe just don't allow them to have it. But this is one, again, where if they do have an account, just make sure that they're setting their privacy settings so that other people that they don't know can't add them. Moving on to the third row, Snapchat. The only thing I want to talk to you about Snapchat is that it can lead to a lot of bad things, right? Kids can create groups, they can chat back and forth all day long, they can send pictures that will only last for a couple seconds and then they disappear. And this does lead kids down the path into sexting and sextortion, right? So sending nude photos of each other. It does happen, it happens quite a bit. Sextortion is something that we're seeing quite a bit in teenagers in the city of Oshkosh and in the Fox Valley area, where maybe they were dating and they exchanged photos, but then that person has screenshot that photo and kept it. I would just talk to your kids about not doing that, making sure that that's a conversation that you have, that open line of conversation. We're not sending nude photos of each other because, and I'll get down to it in a little bit, but that's also child pornography. So make sure you talk about Snapchat. Something else to know about Snapchat is that they have a feature now where you can create private stories. If none of you guys have Snapchat, a story is basically a way for you to post pictures all day long and people can look at them. But if you create a private story, it's only for people that you're allowing. Now, a lot of people that are involved in producing porn or in sex trafficking or in prostitution will have what's called premium stories. So people actually pay for these premium stories so that they can look at nude photos of the person posting them. I've definitely noticed in teenagers that they're subscribing to premium stories. So I would just make sure they're not doing that. That's just something to be aware of. It's out there, it's easy to get, it's easily accessible. Make sure that your kids are not adding people they don't know on Snapchat. If they don't know them in real life, they shouldn't be adding them. A lot of people on Snapchat will add each other because they're friends of friends or because they're someone that was suggested to them because of an algorithm. I would talk to your kids about not adding them. Friends of friends does not mean safe. The rest of them on this image, I wouldn't really worry about except for maybe the calculator app at the bottom. Calculator app is not a calculator, it's just a fake app made to look like something, but really it's a place where you can store secret photos. So, you know, you can probably imagine what some kids would be storing in there, but that's just something to be aware of. Something to think about when you're going through your child's phone. It looks like a calculator, but is it really? If you look over to the right, there's To Be Honest and Lipsy. Those are the top two. Both of those apps are anonymous messaging and compliment apps. So a lot of kids will subscribe to them and then post a link to them and say, hey, let me know what you think about me, or comment on my outfit, or tell me anything. And this is a way for kids to kind of harass and bully each other, right? They can click on Tori Heidemann's Lipsy or To Be Honest from their Instagram or their Snapchat, and then they can just send these mean comments. And this is where the cyberbullying aspect comes in. It's not always a good thing. House Party I talked about, and the app on the bottom there, the blue one, is called Omegle. Omegle is an app that I don't think any kids should have, just like Grindr. It's a chat application that works similar to like Google Meet or Zoom, where you can video chat with someone, but what it does is it matches you up with someone random. And we've had a lot of instances where maybe I'm looking at Omegle and I open up my screen and it matches me with an adult who shows me maybe a nude part of their body or something like that. And it's very hard to track down from the law enforcement side. It's got a lot of, we've got a lot of, write a lot of warrants, and a lot of the times the people are from out of state, but not a good app. There are so many other options that are much more safe for anyone under the age of 18 to do the exact same thing as Omegle. I probably wouldn't allow my child to have that. Moving on, some of the apps that I do think are safe include Messenger Kids and YouTube Kids. Those are both really great apps, especially for kids that are maybe even younger than high school age. They're both parent approved. They have filters so that what they're viewing is appropriate. Messenger Kids, I think, is really a great app through Facebook. You have to allow your child to be friends with someone. You have to pick who they can chat with. It sends you who they talk to the most. It sends you every single picture that they send between each other, and it's overall pretty good. Sometimes it will warn you if maybe your child has said or done anything that may be inappropriate, and so that's a way for you to kind of monitor what's going on.
Tori, I have a quick question.
Yep.
A question just came in the chat. How is the best way to ensure a child is only friending their friend? I'm a youth leader who had someone create an identical Snapchat file with my name, and Snapchat wouldn't do anything about it, and I no longer use Snapchat, so no one would get confused.
So Snapchat is an app that's created through cell phone numbers. So if I have your cell phone number in my phone and that is the current phone number that you're using, it will show me what your Snapchat account is. That's one way for you to know if that is actually your child's friend and not a fake person. If you look at the Snapchat list and it's giving you a list of people's names that are in your phone, they're valid contacts, you know that they're who they are, then that's probably safe. When it comes up as someone who added you by username or added you by, friend of friends, something like that, maybe that's when you have to step back and say, I don't know if I should accept them. Does that answer your question?
I'm not sure, but hopefully it did. Someone else asked about it, but.
Okay. If you guys want me to clarify any of that, just let me know. There's tons of apps out there. I get asked this a lot for how do parents monitor their kids' phone usage, right? If you guys have iPhones, you can actually go within the iPhone itself and set up a family account and kind of monitor, how much screen time they're using, whether or not you want to set limits for how long they can be on particular apps, things like that. So that's something to check out. If you have an iPhone, Google it, and maybe you can get that set up for your family. It's definitely something I do. I have limits for how long my daughter can be on her phone, on certain apps, online, things like that. Other apps that are out there, and I don't have a preference personally. One that I've read a lot about is Mama Bear, and that seems to be a really, really good one, but that's a paid app. One that is free is called Life 360, and Life 360 I think is good because you can actually track where your kids are. So your phone's location is turned on within the app, and you can kind of see, okay, Sally's done with soccer practice and she made her way over to Dairy Queen and I can go pick her up, things like that. Your kids can also send you, like, if they're at a party and they're uncomfortable, they can send you a message and say, hey, come pick me up. They just have to click a button. So Life 360 is a good app just because it has a lot of cool features like that and it's free. But there's tons that are out there. You just kind of have to research what you're looking for and what you're willing to pay, what your budget is. I want to go back to the location data on images and in Snapchat. Something you also have to think about when you're taking photos and posting them is something called metadata. And metadata is basically the latitude and longitude of where you took that specific photo that's embedded into that photo. And unless you've altered this on your phone, this is going to happen on every single picture you take. So on certain websites, or if you're sending photos back and forth, you should be able to look at the metadata within that cell phone and see where the photo was taken. So this can be really problematic, right? Because we don't want people that our kids don't know to know where they live, where they're taking photos, where they go to school, things like that. So just something to be conscious of. When kids are uploading images to Facebook or to Instagram, it automatically takes away the metadata. So you don't really have to worry about that, but you still have to worry about the portion of them tagging themselves at places or posting pictures of them, and you can see their license plate in the background. Things like that, just something to be conscious of. Snapchat, I already talked about a little bit. Make sure your kids are turning the location data off. The last thing I would like to see is your kids adding a bunch of people they don't know, and for them to, find out where they live and where they're spending their time. You can see them actively moving on the map when they have this location data on. So I would highly, highly suggest to turn it off. Even as adults, don't have this on. You guys have any questions so far about any of the apps that I talked about or anything like that?
Just to clarify, you can shut the metadata off on your settings on the phone. Is that accurate?
Yep, you can. I would have to look at your specific phone, and if you wanted to talk afterwards, I could see how we could do that. I personally download an app, and I have it running through my phone where if I take a picture, I think it says that I'm in France, and it alters the time and date and things like that as well. So there are definitely a lot of ways that you can do it. Sometimes you can do that just within the phone itself, so it depends on what kind of phone it is.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Something real quick. This is a really, really great reference website. If you ever feel totally overwhelmed or you just want to learn more about social media or about what your kids are doing, it's called smartsocial.com. They have their own website. They have their own YouTube channel. They send a lot of helpful things for people who are beginners or people who are just interested in how technology is evolving and social media works. This guy is really, really good. I highly recommend them. So something just to keep in mind if you are interested.
And Tori, real quick, Common Sense Media is also a great website for families to look up a movie, a TV show, a video game that would be for like Xbox or PlayStation, or even a tablet or phone video game. And it gives you the actual rating of the app or movie or anything, and then also what parents and kids also rate it as with comments and that kind of thing too. So
yeah. So that's same concept as smartsocial.com. It does the same thing too. Yeah. So what was it called? commonsense.com? I'll have to write that down. All right, so we'll move on to child predators, and I'm going to fly through a lot of this, and I apologize if I'm talking too fast. Just if you need to interject, if you need me to repeat something, just please let me know. So another favorite quote of mine is that people who do not believe that their children could ever become victimized online are living in an unrealistic world. Regardless of if your child makes A's or not, that child has the potential to become victimized through online technologies. I think it's important for parents of all socioeconomic statuses and with all different roles in society to take this problem very seriously. So why social media? Why the internet? It's easy and anonymous access to children, right? Instant gratification. It's not just good for kids or for teenagers, it's good for adults too. They get this instant validation, this virtual validation from the kids. You can easily groom children. There's a lot of privacy and security. They can hide behind the screen, pretend to be somebody else. An unsupervised environment. It's not like they're sitting at a park and people are wondering why they're there, why they're staring at their kids. They can look at them online. There's no profile for a child predator. And I'm quickly going to go through some different types of child predators just to give you some examples that it's not always the creepy guy sitting at the park. It could be anybody. So this individual abducted a female after meeting them on Xbox. He was on probation for assaulting women in 2007. He convinced this person to give her address and convinced her that he was a younger male. He abducted and raped her. Law enforcement was able to trace him back to his computers and IP address and utility records. So a good example that sometimes people can groom others on different devices or apps that you would have never thought of. Kids can access the internet through Xbox, they can access it through PlayStation and other gaming platforms, and there's definitely bad people on gaming platforms. They will buy, I don't even know what you'd call it. I'm not a gamer. They'd buy things for the kids within the games, or, they'd say, great, you're doing such a good job, and they'd make friends with them that way. And that's how they're able to slide in and meet these people. But just something to think about. If your kids are online and they're gaming, Maybe talk to them about who they're gaming with. This is Courtney. She lured her teenage son's friends to come over to their house using social media. They were about 15 years old. She's a mother of 3. She'd give the teenagers alcohol and facilitate sex parties. She was arrested in 2012 and sentenced to 20 years in prison for performing sex acts on children, right? Not just the creepy guy at the park, could be your daughter's friend's mother, okay? This is Andrew Harding. He was convicted of possessing child pornography in 2002, but somehow was never registered as a sex offender in his state. He would lure boys in with a popular game called Minecraft by offering them gifts within the game. Minecraft is still popular today. My daughter likes Minecraft a lot. So, I mean, just again, something to think about. You have these options to chat with people in these apps, on these platforms. You have to make sure you talk to your kids about who they're contacting. These boys were under the impression he was another younger boy. And then in 2014, after a parent discovered these sexually explicit conversations, Andrew was arrested and charged with 3 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, 2 counts of communication with a minor for immoral purposes, and 1 count of possessing child pornography. Gemma Barker, this one's a little bizarre. She would pose as a 15-year-old boy to meet 15 to 16-year-old girls. She'd befriend them online and meet them in person, and then engage in sexual activity with these underage kids. She was arrested in 2009 and sentenced to a 30-month term for sexual assault and fraud. Just some local case examples of sexual predators. This isn't just across the United States. This happens here in Oshkosh. This happens here in the Fox Valley. Oshkosh, an 11-year-old girl targeted on Roblox. The offender asked her to send nude photos. Oshkosh, 12-year-old girl targeted on Facebook. Male sent her explicit and sexual photographs and videos. Winneconne, 40-year-old male believes he's chatting with a 14-year-old girl on a chat app called Kik. It was actually a law enforcement officer, and he arranged to meet up with this girl who he thought was 14 and have sex. Oshkosh, a 21-year-old male used a fake Facebook account to exchange nude photos with several underage girls that he knew were underage. Appleton, this one you may recognize, a 53-year-old man used an app called Whisper to meet girls online and entice them for nude photos. So all of these cases are great examples of people hiding behind an app, hiding behind a screen, pretending to be someone else, using the practice of sextortion or of grooming to get kids to do what they want. It's not just Facebook, it's not just TikTok, it's on Xbox, it's on Roblox, it's on innocent games. So you guys probably know what this is, but we'll go through it quickly. So what is sexual solicitation? It's an unwanted request to engage in sexual activities or talk or any sexual request by an adult. And grooming, offenders who play on children or teenagers' vulnerabilities and manipulate them by offering them affection and attention. Some examples of grooming: befriending a child or the family of a child, emotional connections that are made, positive reinforcement, gifts or praise. A lot of the times when people are targeting children, they're trying to target children who maybe don't have a lot of money, who maybe feel like they're not getting the attention they need at home, who maybe have a lot of siblings, so they just don't feel like they get attention. And when someone's like recognizing them and noticing them, it feels good. They're normalizing a child to abuse, showing them pornography, normalizing physical touching, hugging, kissing, making it seem like, hey, like this is okay. You're the one who thinks it's weird, not me. Sexual abuse, trying to get the child alone. Online abuse, pretending to be someone who they aren't. But what you can do as parents to avoid all of this: talk to your kids. Open line of communication, right? You have to talk to them about online chatting, about online gaming, about adding people on apps, on Snapchat, on TikTok, keeping their accounts open. You have to talk to them about the dangers of not knowing who they're really talking to. Friends of friends do not mean safe. Do not give out full names, addresses, phone numbers. Know what apps they're using. Know your children's passwords. If you have older children, pay attention to who they're talking with on social media. Look for patterns that are different in their behavior. Are they more secluded? Are they spending more time on the computer? Are they obsessing over being online or in their room or on their iPad? Talk to them about posting their location. Real quick, I want to touch on human trafficking, right? Because this is a buzzword, and please feel free to interrupt me. So human trafficking has really exploded, and the talk about this and prevention has exploded over the last few years. And I think there's a lot of myths out there, and I try to do my best to talk about it because I think that there's such a non-true image of what's actually going on being exploited by the media. Weird, right? that people are afraid to let their kids be alone, that they think that kids are being targeted in the mall and that they can't go shopping and that they're going to get swept up. These things aren't happening. People aren't getting just kidnapped. You know, there's those things that go around online where if you see like a tag on your car window, you should run because that's a distraction, and there's human traffickers just waiting for you so they can come and snatch you up. It doesn't happen. Human trafficking does occur online. It's an easy way for people to connect with others and target people that, you know, are juvenile runaways, are addicted to drugs, have a bad home life, you know, have an abusive home life, things like that. That's definitely an easy route in, an easy way to groom people, but it's not like it's people waiting on the street looking for your children. A lot of human trafficking does occur online now. You know, there are people that are still on street corners. There's a lot of prostitution in the city of Milwaukee, things like that, where that's more normal, but most of it is people posting online. I would say in this area, there's definitely juveniles that are involved in human trafficking, and a lot of them are kids who have suffered maybe sexual abuse. They're kids who run away. They're kids that have parents who are addicted to drugs. They are addicted to drugs themselves, and they fall into the trap where they meet older kids or older gentlemen or women who are there to offer them things that they don't have. Oh, you don't have a cell phone? I'll get you one. Oh, you've never got your nails done? I'll do that for you. If your mom doesn't do that, I'll do that for you. You don't have any clothes? I'll do that for you. And I'll take you to Milwaukee and we'll party and I'll give you alcohol. I don't care that you're 14. It'll be fun. It'll be great. And then these kids get addicted to it. I would say that the most of the kids that are involved in human trafficking that are in this area, they're being trafficked by someone else. They're not from the area. But there are people in Oshkosh and there are kids in the Fox Valley that do get wrapped up in it. Do you guys have any questions about that? Okay. I'm gonna breeze through this. So something else that's out there is cyberbullying and harassment. It's the willful and repeated harm inflicted through the use of computers, cell phones, and other electronic devices that can result in criminal charges. 21% of teens say they have been cyberbullied, and 13% of teens admit to doing it themselves. Kids are mean. Kids are really mean. And with social media, with all of the things that they have at their fingertips, I mean, it makes it so easy for them to be mean. Stats and trends, victimization is higher among males and females for sure. Most teens will say that they've seen cyberbullying take place online. Most of them will say they did not report it to their parents. Most of them think it's funny. 64% of cyberbullies say that they just didn't like the person. 45% of them view the victim as a loser, and 58% probably didn't see the action as a big deal. These kids, you know, they can say whatever they want and they can shut their phone off. It's not a big deal to them. Signs your child may be a victim. They'll lose touch with you or friends. Their academics start to suffer. They're not on their computer or cell phone as much, or maybe even more so. Maybe they're addicted to it. They're waiting for someone to make them feel better. They're starting to fall into depression. There are noticeable changes in their dress or behavior. What you can do. This is always number one in my book. You guys have the power at your fingertips, and you have to make sure that your children understand this. Block that person. If they have a problem with someone online, they're being mean to them online, block them. Get rid of them. They're done. They're gone. Poof. Oftentimes, this solves the problem. They just have to click a button. You have to keep the lines of communication open. Are you noticing a pattern in what I'm telling you? Communicate, communicate, communicate. Talk to them about not retaliating, about not, you know, about not taking things personally. People often say things about you that are really about them, right? You have to talk to them about standing up for others who are being bullied. You have to tell them, hey, tell an adult. Tell them to block that person. Do the right thing. Talk to them about reporting these serious problems. And if they persist, if blocking wasn't enough and it keeps continuing to happen, go to your teachers, your counselors, go to law enforcement. Law enforcement is here to help you, even if it seems like it's something as trivial as being bullied on the internet. Sometimes it can result to harassment, or it can result to stalking or things like that. So you have to tell us. Sexting, this is a big one, and I did talk a little bit about sextortion, but sexting is sending sexually explicit messages, photos, or video via cell phone, computer, or any digital device. Sexting includes photos and videos containing nudity or showing or simulating sex acts. It also includes text messages that discuss or propose sex acts. Sextortion is huge right now. kids are taking nude photographs of themselves and sending them to people, and those people are using it against them. It's not even just kids. I've noticed with the pandemic and people being at home more, people working from home more, we've seen so many cases of people sending nude photographs to people they don't know, and then they will turn around and say, hey, if you don't send me $5,000 now, I'm sending this to your boss and to your entire family. It happens to adults, happens to kids. Kids maybe on a lower level, it'll be like, if you don't do this, I'm going to be posting this all over Instagram, something like that. But it happens a lot. Wisconsin sexting law, whoever possesses an undeveloped film, photographic negative, photograph, motion picture, videotape, or other recording of a child engaged in sexually explicit conduct under any of the following circumstances may be penalized. Persons who know they possess the material, persons who know the character and content of the images that are sexually explicit, persons know or reasonably should know that the child is engaged in sexually explicit content and they have not attained the age of 18, and the person exhibits or plays a role in recording the child engaged in sexually explicit material. This is all child pornography. Those one actions of taking those nude photographs of yourself as a person who's under 18 can result in multiple felonies in less than a minute. And this is something maybe screenshot, maybe talk to your teenager about. Taking a child pornographic photo is production of taking child pornography, right? If I'm Tori and I'm 17 years old and I'm taking a picture of myself naked, I'm producing child pornography. If I'm then sending this photo to my 17-year-old boyfriend, I'm sending child pornography, which is distribution of child pornography. And everyone who keeps that photo on their cell phone could be charged with possession, right? That's 3 felonies in less than a minute. Winnebago County does have a sexting ordinance, which is nicer for people who live in this county. If you don't live in Winnebago and your kid is engaging in these type of activities, they may not be as lucky because Wisconsin law doesn't allow much room for interpretation. If I'm 17 and I'm sending this photo and then my boyfriend is distributing it, we could both be charged with felonies. Unless we live in Winnebago County and the officer decides to charge them instead with this Winnebago sexting ordinance. It's a forfeiture, so it's not a criminal charge. It's not going to go on your permanent record, but it is a monetary fine. And a lot of times you have to take this social media sexting diversion program, which can help you at least get rid of the ordinance violation or lessen the charge. That's 5 weeks though of your kid sitting in a class, but something to be, I guess, grateful for if they do get in trouble because they could be avoiding being a felon, basically. Something I'd like to say is sexting is like toothpaste. It's really easy to push the toothpaste out, right? But it's hard to push it back in that tube. Once you send a nude photograph of yourself, it's going to be so hard to get rid of that. Have any questions about that? All right, I knew I touched on a lot of things very, very quickly. Here's my contact information. I'm always here for any questions that you may have as a parent, or if you're struggling with something. That's my desk phone number and my email address. I wanted to stop sharing my screen real quick here. I'm open for questions though.
Would you mind putting that email back up again for a minute, please?
Oh yeah, yep, hold on 1 second. Let me share my screen.
I just wanted to say, so my name's Maggie, and I'm a librarian in the Oshkosh Area School District. And last year, I had some 7th grade girls tell me, we get messages to send nudes all the time. And they just acted like it was no big deal. Like they get them from people. I guess maybe my question, Tori, would be, how are they getting those messages from random people? Can messages still come through even though they're not friending these people?
Yeah, absolutely. On basically any app. Yeah, absolutely. And it's sad to say, like, you can probably tell by my face if you can see me. That's definitely something that is happening all the time on any app. I would say the only ones that are safe and that you can ensure that they're talking with people that is probably Facebook Messenger kids. Otherwise, you know, people can do it on Facebook, they can do it on Instagram, TikTok. Even if their account is private, they can send those messages. So it's not uncommon. No other questions? All right. I usually, it's hard to do this presentation from a computer screen because I can't see any of your faces, but I always watch these parents as they leave the room, and it's kind of like, ugh, you know, a little bit of a cloud hanging over you, and you're scared, and you should be scared. I do want to scare you, but there are ways to protect yourself, protect your kids. Just remember those guidelines that I gave you and keep the lines of communication open. That's the best thing you can do for your family. Did you guys
Tori,
ever, yeah?
I do just have a question. So my name's Trudy. I'm one of the youth leaders at the church, and I believe that all of the parents that are on here are well intentioned to watch out for their kids. I'm wondering if, in addition to caring for their kids, if they realize their kid has a friend that's kind of an outlier, that it doesn't have a parent that's aware of these things, or even caring to care about these things, what is the best way that you feel we could approach that child to encourage them to watch out for themselves?
I mean, I would be very upfront about it. I would say, what are you doing to protect yourself online? Have you thought about how you can keep yourself safe? And just approach the conversation that way. If you're a person who's involved in that kid's life, even just as, hey, I'm your friend's parent, I think it's a great thing to have those conversations with people, and especially if they've never had a conversation with an adult like this. Stuff like this is taught very basically in school, but maybe not to this level. And sometimes it would be nice for that kid to have an adult say, hey, I care about you. Make sure you're not doing X, Y, and Z. Are you making sure that you're keeping yourself safe? Can I help you keep yourself safe, keep you safe? You know, what apps are you using? Who are you talking to? Can I help you make sure your location data is not on? Things like that. I mean, don't be afraid to be the crazy parent that wants to help the kid out and make sure that they're being safe online.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, you guys all have my contact information. I'm always here. I usually work 8 to 4, so feel free to shoot me a message anytime, or really any officer at the police department is willing to help as well. So thank you guys so much for having me, and hopefully I helped a little bit. Oh, hi, Jody. I didn't know you were in this. Thanks, guys. All right. I'm going to hang up.
Thanks, Tori. Have a good night.
You too.